We're going to end looking at some imagery. I want to start by asking, what is witness? Thank you very much, Kenny. First, I want to talk about what we normally think of when we think of witness. There we go. Here are the questions. What is witness and how malleable is it? How does the concept of time relate to the issue of witness? And what is the relation of being to doing in relation to witness? What determines a correct perspective? All right, so a general definition of witness is having some sort of knowledge relevant to an event, or if you look at eyewitness, it has something that you've perceived through your senses, or if you're an expert witness, it means you have some sort of specialized knowledge. So what I'm going to do with this last 15 minutes, I'm just going to raise questions. Do we, as Christians, have some sort of specialized knowledge, something that our patients don't have? Or do they have some kind of specialized knowledge that we don't have? Do we each have some kind of specialized knowledge? If we perceive things through the senses, how do we account for the fact that we have all these different kind of personality types? I will talk about God in a very different way than an NT personality type or an SP or an SJ because I'm NF. So I tell stories. And if I'm talking to someone who is very logical in the way that they think, they'll need a different kind of way, perhaps. Also, there are innumerable perspectives. Nothing is consistent, always shifting, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Then if there is some sort of specialized knowledge, one has to ask, well, who has it? Who deserves to have it? And what makes me think that I'm the one that has it and it isn't the patient who has it? Or maybe that's what we're talking about witness. We haven't talked much about the fact that maybe it's the patient that is the witness to me. All right. This is a group of photos about the Japanese internment camps. This is one presentation, and I just want you to look at those for a second. You see a group of women playing cards, a man harvesting, looks like cabbage, and a young girl playing ball. This is a different depiction of that. Do you like one more than the other? Does one tell a different story than the other? Which story is more real? Why not both? Which story do you like better? Okay. Where is this? Who said that? Where? Who said that? Very good, Beth. That is Niagara Falls without the falls. That was in 1969 when they stopped the water in order to build the dam. Very good. Which one is Niagara Falls? What's that? It can't be a falls without the falls.
It's a Southern California version.
Yeah, a Southern California version. That's right. All right, where is this? Everybody's looking to Beth. Where is this? Florida? Where is this? Where is this? Yosemite. They're the same place. Ansel Adams, these are all photos by Ansel Adams, and he didn't often photograph the more gritty aspects of Yosemite. He actually photographed more of the photograph that you see on the right, this sort of pristine idea and aspect of Yosemite, which made it very famous and which brought all the people into Yosemite. And so there is controversy actually about whether that helped preserve or participated in its partial destruction by bringing all those people. So what kind of place is it? These are also pictures, photographs by Ansel Adams of Yosemite. You see the one on the far right is so perfect, so pristine. And even the young girl in white next to the big tree, almost this virginal photo. I actually find it a little bit disturbing. Then you have the perfect tree. What kind of, and I love Ansel Adams, but one has to ask through, in fact, the one on the left is one of the few photographs of people in Yosemite. They're almost all of this sort of pristine picture of Yosemite. So you have to ask yourself what kind of Yosemite is being portrayed by the photos that are being taken. To you, is this beautiful or depressing? These are actually called trailer camp kids. It was taken also by Ansel Adams, but they weren't of Yosemite. But when you look at these photos, do you find them beautiful or depressing or both? What do you... Both? Okay. Okay. The questions that I want to raise here at the end is that when we talk about witness, it involves these questions. Am I witnessing about what I have seen? Am I witnessing about what really is? Am I witnessing about how I would like it to be? Am I witnessing about how a person should respond? Am I witnessing about one aspect of it? As we looked in these photos, these are that one on the right is one aspect of Yosemite. And these are another aspect, this captures the whole life cycle of decaying trees in the water. So these are all questions that we have to ask when we're witnessing. What part of it is that we're capturing? I love this text in John 21. Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them were written down, I suppose that even the whole world would not have room for the books that would be written. I have rewritten that to sort of fit what we're doing here. Once one person has given witness for God, I suppose that even the rest of time would not be enough for the remaining people to provide the rest of the story about who God is. God is that complex, that multi-layered. What then? I would like to ask the question of what it would mean for a witness to simply be. In other words, witness meaning that it is how I am, which Dr. Winslow brought up to some degree. And let me explain. Some of you have heard this story, but I worked with many years ago, when I was working on the units, I had a tag on me that said spiritual care. Because I was teaching people how to integrate the spiritual aspect into their care. And I went in to see a man that could hardly walk from the bed to the restroom. His congestive heart failure was so bad, he had to stop and breathe after every step. So when I walked in and he saw the tag on my coat, he nearly pulled it off of my coat, and he used some expletives, and he said, "Why did God, in the middle of this breathing, allow this?" Meaning his own congestive heart failure, which put him in a place of not being able to do anything. And I remember, this was years ago, I remember that moment of, I don't know. Should I make it up? And let me go back here. Should I tell him how I see it? Should I tell him how it really is? Because I don't know. But I know that there's a response I should give. Should I tell him how I would like it to be? Should I witness in a way that would help him respond in a more hopeful manner? All these questions just went through my heart and my head. And finally, I decided to be genuine and just say, I don't know. I don't know. And he said to me, if he had said anything other than that, I wouldn't continue the conversation, because I know that you don't know. And we had, after that, a spiritual conversation and talked about God and what God might be like and where God might be in all of this. But it wasn't something I took in a luggage into work that I then opened and used, we were two people who had witnessed different things talking together and sharing what each of us had witnessed. And it was a beautiful thing. And the thing that was the most beautiful is that we both walked away changed. I know that. I didn't like what he said to me at the end because I was young and didn't understand its import. But he said to me, I want you to know that I haven't become religious or anything, but I would like to believe in a God like that. It's what emerged out of a conversation. It wasn't a goal that I had set. When I left, I can tell you, I left just fear and trembling, thinking that I had not said the right thing. But when I left, I thought, somehow it doesn't feel like the correct thing, but it feels right. Because I feel that he respected me and that I respected him. And I walked away feeling like something beautiful had taken place there. I wonder if witness is also about enlarging the circle for a person to be able to ask the questions that they need to ask, even though they're not comfortable. Because Yosemite is, in fact, pieces of it are about death and dying, and wood that's not pristine decaying. And I know that even in my relationship with God, there have been ups and downs and valleys as well as mountains. And if I had to pretend when I was talking with someone that everything was good and cheery right now, that would be hard. What would it be like for us to witness to the genuine walk that we have? And for our patients to witness to their genuine walk? And to talk about what it's like to wonder where God is. And to wonder what it's like, or reasons why maybe bad things are happening to these people that are really good. What would it be like for us to wonder and witness to that together? And to realize that in spiritual conversations, all the answers aren't just cheery and happy and hovering up there in a way that's easy to find. We have a model that has taken this into account. You'll see this model on your table, and Will already talked about it earlier. It's called the CLEAR model. And what I want to show here is that each one of those areas are religiously informed. The first one, C, is connect. And first of all, our overall model talks about creating an atmosphere of compassion exemplified by the healing ministry of Jesus. So we are suggesting that the atmosphere that we are wanting to create is not like your typical atmosphere of compassion, is something deeper, more long-lasting, more caring that should be taking place. C, connect. Connecting deeply with God, self, and others. So we're suggesting that this connect takes place before you even enter the room. That somewhere beside your bed, on your knees, or in a quiet moment, you're asking God to give you the sort of restfulness in your heart that you can create in that encounter with someone else. And then also to care about that person, not just their diagnosis, but to care about the people that are sitting beside their bed, to care about, as we found out just Thursday when Will and I made rounds, with a man that cared about his 6 dogs that were at home and who would feed them. That those kind of connections are important. And then second, to listen well, to listen to what the patient is not saying, but maybe even would be saying with their body, that maybe they can't speak out loud. And that really touched me when I was in that role play. And when he said, is there anything else? My first response in my head was, oh my goodness, there's so much else. And to be honest, what came into my head then was not the role play, but my own life. I've been working so hard this week, and I'm you feel that tiredness creeping in. And when he said, is there so much else? I jumped out of the role play in my head and said, oh my goodness, there's so much else, but whoa, bring it back. I'm in this role play. But how that question goes into the deep core of us, meaning that someone cares to ask, is there something else? It's a beautiful question. So to listen in a way that's bigger and deeper, and listen in a way that says, I'm going to make this circle big, and if you want to ask questions here, you're safe. I'm going to stretch this out to say you're safe here, you're loved here, you're a precious person here. The next one is explore. When we talk about this, we talk about exploring every aspect. Explore the physical, mental, social, even environment, and then, of course, the spiritual. And I'll talk about that in a second. We have 4 questions that we suggest need to be asked no matter what at some point in the encounters with that patient. And then to acknowledge. And I thought that was beautiful when Dr. Elder said to Kathy, oh, so we've got an issue with God and your husband and your children and and when that list came out, she was like, Beth and I were like, oh, whoa, there it is. There's that conclusion. There's that deep problem of, whoa, there's a lot of things going to pieces here. And when you acknowledge that for a person, they begin to see the import of what they have said. It's not what you have said. You've just acknowledged what they have brought to you, and it is big, or it is bold, or it is deep, or it is scary. It doesn't mean you agree. It simply means that you have seen, and seen it well. And the last one, to respond. And that response is not just with the resources that we might have in the hospital, or texts that we might have written out, or texts that we might know, or a song, or a verbal response, but to respond with our being. To respond maybe just to sit and acknowledge and hear, and maybe say nothing. Because maybe what they have said is so beautiful and is the witness for God that my words would only hurt it. And then finally, that respond means to also reflect. Reflect on what you plan to do in the future. You plan to come back, you plan to refer, and I thank you for that that statement about, we've got chaplains here, we've got social workers here, we've got Child Life, we've got their family, we've got their dogs, we've got all kinds of resources, either that they've mentioned or that we might help them with. And then I want to show you where the spiritual could easily come, and that is in that exploration which you have seen. What are your resources? And we teach here that if a person mentions prayer, that has given us the opening to either say, may I pray with you in the privacy of my heart, or would you like us to pray with you here, if they have mentioned it. And then also that spiritual is an exploration. What helps you? And how can I link you with that resource? Here at this time, we also have people telling us what has hurt them. We can't assume that their resources have been helpful in the past, and we've had people who have told us that church has absolutely destroyed their faith. So of course, we're not going to encourage that. We might encourage a different kind of community, or a different kind of support that would be helpful to them. Now, this is not the acronym we've settled on. We have 3 acronyms we're working with, and I'm sure a few more will come into play. But I just want to show you how we organize these 4 questions. The first question in the spiritual history is about inner strength and support. And you will see on the handout that you have in the table that these questions are bold in the clear model under Explore. So what gives you inner strength and support? We think that question ought to be asked with every person that comes in, not with every encounter, but with every person. What religion, faith group, or philosophy shapes you most? Here we're looking for the issue that Dr. Lamberton mentioned. Who is your community? Do you have a community of support? And the next one, what significant life events, gains or losses, do you want to be aware of as we care for you? We've had all kinds of things stated there. Well, we will ask, is there anything else? And oh my goodness, the things get said there. And sometimes, like Calvin mentioned, sometimes it's something so big it's hard to comprehend. Like, Is there anything else? Well, my husband says he's going to leave me if I get a mastectomy. I had a woman tell me that. That was almost overwhelming for me to hear. And she refused the chemotherapy because of that. And that's difficult. So sometimes you have people stating things there that are really difficult. Or my husband died just a week ago. Or I think God gave me this because I slept around. Or I think God gave me this lung cancer because I smoked. Well, there's kind of two truths together, because they smoked, and that may participate in the lung cancer, but did God give them that because they... So you have all these complexities coming in there when you ask, is there anything else? And then finally, links to care. What religious practices that you would like, that you've identified, can we help you carry out here? Then finally, I ask this question. What does the place have to do with witness? Your hospital, your person, the room that they are in. Are there things in that room, in that hospital, that speak to these more religious issues that may be identified in a secular manner, such as, are you loved? Are you forgiven? Do you find a place of rest, either in your heart, your soul, in your family, in your community? And finally, do you have a sense of hope? Those can be answered both secularly and religiously. And you can place things in your environment that will help show what kind of questions you're open to. This is one of our statues here. And I just want to quickly go through this to show you, even when you use imagery, there are different perspectives of that imagery. I know because I've spent many moments with this statue. You've got the imagery of here where the focus is on her reaching out. And here you have on the left the focus of Jesus reaching back, and her in the middle trying to catch that hem of his garment, and finally that touch. It almost seems as if it's moving, but it isn't. The other perspectives are, what would his face have looked like? What would her face have looked like to sense that moment of healing? And finally, where were his hands when her hands were so desperately reaching out? These are parts of that image that you only see as you look, and you look, and you look again, similar to what we experience when we visit Scripture. So, what is witness? What really is the Niagara Falls, or are the falls? Which one fits? Which picture fits? Which one is correct? Could it be that one might fit for now, and one might fit for later? And then I could ask many more questions like, who really are the people who are witnessing? Is it one? Is it the other? Maybe it's both. Thank you.